The Rule 5 draft was uneventful for our favorite team on Wednesday, but it did create a couple of big questions. One major question, with the 40-man roster at 35 players, how will the Halos fill those 5 extra spots?
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day, and the #1 sports podcast network in all the land. Now, the Angels made a selection in the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft. We're going to share who they got. Plus, they lost 5 players in that same draft, and we'll tell you who they did lose. And what will the Angels do with these open roster spots? They have a 40-man roster, and they only have 35 guys on the roster currently. We've got some ideas for our favorite team. Before we talk about our favorite team, we want to thank our sponsor, FanDuel. Right now, you can get in the middle of all of the action, the NFL action this season, by visiting FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long.
Thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
Hey, we're talking Angels baseball with you Monday through Friday, including today. And after a Rule 5 draft where the Angels did nada and then had a bunch of players taken from them, we're going to recap all of that. Plus, the most interesting question that you brought up, Mike, there's a 40-man roster, but there's only 35 players on it as of this recording. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Angels do. Let's recap what happened on Wednesday.
Yeah, the Rule 5 draft was yesterday, and Taylor Blake Ward, Locked On Hall of Famer, had a great post about the Rule 5 draft. He wrote that it's exciting for eligible players who get a chance to be on a 40-man roster. And he added, I was going to do a short spiel on how the Rule 5 draft rarely provides impact, but last year was a solid year for a few picks. Mike Vassell, he was a 2.9 Bleacher Report.
Baseball reference.
Thank you. Baseball reference war. Shane Smith, 2.4 baseball reference.
I don't want to know Bleacher Report's war.
I'm giving them credit. They don't deserve it. And then Liam Hicks, a 1.3 baseball reference war. And then he said, however, the rest of the Rule 5 draft produced a negative 2.4 war. So he said, I'm not going to do that. But It does show that there are some anomalies. There are some players that could potentially be really good once you select them. Now, the Angels didn't select any players or lose any players in the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft, but there is a minor league portion, and the Angels did pick someone up, and then they lost 5 players. Let's talk about the one that they picked up, Jon.
Yeah, in the minor league phase, the Angels took right-hander Eybersson Polanco from the Boston Red Sox. He's 22 years old. He's got a career minor league record of 6-8, a 3.98 ERA, 56 games, 19 starts, 5 saves, 144 and 2/3 innings pitched, 143 Ks, and a 1.33 WHIP. Last season, he went 4-5 with a 5.23 ERA in 36 games, 5 saves, and 62 innings, 71 strikeouts, and a 1.5 WHIP. It was his first year in the bullpen after 2 years as a starter. Now, the Angels do not need to put him on the major league roster to keep him.
Now, I did see Jared Timms tweeted out some of his arsenal that he has. He's got a fastball that's 95, 96. He's got a slider that's 84, 85, and he's got a changeup that's low 80s as well. So 3 pitches for this guy. And again, he was a starter in the minor leagues for 2 years, then in the bullpen. Jon, his first year in the minor leagues was pretty good. He had 12 starts and had an ERA in the ones. That was for single A, but he stayed there every single season. The next year wasn't great as a starter, then moved into the bullpen. And then last year was strictly in the bullpen. Now, obviously his Ks compared to his innings, pretty strong, but a lot of walks, a lot of hits, and a lot of contact against this guy.
Yeah. Now, I think what's significant here, Mike, is that the Angels saw 5 of their minor league players taken by other teams in the minor league portion of the Rule 5 draft. And I believe it was the most taken of any team. I thought the Angels had a terrible farm system, Mike. I didn't think anybody would want these guys. I thought that the Angels don't know how to draft. They don't know how to sign international free agents. I thought nobody would touch them with a 10-foot pole. Now, just kidding. They got 5 taken from them.
You know what's so funny about that narrative is I saw our boss, Jeff Carr of Locked On Reds. He posted on TikTok about the potential of Kyle Schwarber coming to the Reds. And then, obviously, Schwarber re-signed with the Phillies, and he did a reaction post to that. I went and looked at the comments. You couldn't tell the difference between Angel fans and Reds fans if you didn't know what team they were talking about. Poverty franchise. We're never going to win. We're wasting these guys' career. It was so funny to me just to see the same narrative for every team. And I wonder if it's just the same perspective that we have across the board when it comes to teams that just haven't been super successful, like maybe the Yankees or the Dodgers.
It doesn't help when the Angels farm system is consistently ranked by the experts, they don't have any good players in their farm system. And look, the truth is a lot of the guys are in the good guys are in the lower ends of the minor leagues. Mike, there's a lot of AAA, AA guys who have been in, single A. It's all over the place. A lot of these arms here. They lost 5 right-handed pitchers. Sandy Gaston to the Washington Nationals, Sam Ryan to the Twins, Jake Smith to the Marlins, Jorge Marcheco to the Athletics, and Yendy Gomez to the Detroit Tigers. Again, all 5 were the most any organization lost in the 2 phases of the draft. I was looking back at some of those numbers from these guys, and there was some good stuff in there. And so I'm not surprised that a number of these guys got taken by other teams.
Yeah. Now the Angels not selecting anyone in the major league portion of the Rule 5 draft means that the 40-man roster currently sits at 35. There's 5 open spots, John. So let's speculate wildly. And that's what we do well on this show. What are the Angels going to do with those 5 spots? What do you think the plan is? Is it room to add free agents? Is it the ability to be flexible? Obviously, they're going to fill the 40-man before the season starts, but who is going to be that spot on this Angel roster? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously, they're probably going to leave some spots open for maybe some minor league guys to be part of the 40-man roster that they want to give a shot to. Somebody like a Chris Cortez, right? He could be on the 40-man. He could be bumped up to maybe AA or AAA next year. And then if they need to call on him, they could certainly do that. But, I mean, let's speculate wildly. As you said, off the top of my head, let's see. Third base, that's 1. Second base, that's 2. Center field, that's 3. Another starter. And how about a closer? There's 5 for you right there, Mike. Can we get it done? Can we get it done? I know everybody's kind of disappointed that nothing really major happened at the winter meetings. But look, the fact that they walked away with 35 guys on the 40-man roster and there's still 5 open spots. Now, obviously, we got to think about who's on the 26-man roster and how that's all going to shake out. But I don't know. I'm kind of glad that there's some openings on the 40-man roster, aren't you?
I am too. I think that gives us some hope, maybe, that they're perhaps going to bring in some solid pieces or solid veterans or some guys that can help with the depth. What I do like about the roster currently, John, is I think, and Jeff Fletcher affirmed this, I think that the depth is better. And what I mean by that is they have players that are an upgrade. And if we are going to look at what we have on this roster the last couple of years, every year Perry has moved the needle a little bit when it comes to depth, right? It's not been significant, but it has been an improvement year over year. It's why when a guy gets really hot that was maybe a bargain bin guy, you don't go, man, bring him back because he was really great. What Perry has done is found a better version of the bargain bin, right? Like instead of the 79-cent piece, he got the 99-cent piece, right? And so no disrespect to the players that he signed, but he's got guys that have some history of being really good and potential of maybe repeating that in 2026.
It's always the piece that's missing, though, is like, who's going to start?
Yes.
Right? That's the piece that's always missing. However, when you add somebody like a Vaughn Grissom and you have Oswald Peraza off the bench, and look, if Vaughn Grissom's going to be a better Peraza, maybe, I think Peraza is a much better defender, maybe a little bit more versatile. But what I'm saying is, and we used to say this a lot, you don't go from Zach Neto to Andrew Velasquez immediately.
Yeah.
And just because Zach Neto has to miss a game or he's on the IL or something like that, you want to go Zach Neto, then Vaughn Grissom, then Oswald Peraza, then, Bob Sacamano. You don't want to go from your best guy to your worst guy with just one move. And so I think that's what's significant here. And I think you can kind of see how that goes all the way around the field, right? You've got Kyron Paris, who could certainly be a factor coming into spring training. Maybe he actually gets a roster spot and stays with the roster this year. Bryce Teodosio, of course, as of now, seems to be the center fielder. I know we're going to talk a little bit about Trout a little bit later on, but to have him as like a fourth outfielder or even just speed off the bench, I think that's pretty significant too. So again, there's some flexibility, some versatility. There's some ability to add more players. And like I said, 26-man roster, they're going to have to move some pieces around. Even if they add people to 40-man, you might have some minor league guys. Like Denzer Guzman is not going to be on the 26-man roster to start the year. So if you add somebody, you can certainly move him around down to the minor league. So I like the ability to add free agents. I like the ability to be flexible. I like the ability to maybe make some trades. It's why I don't think that things are done. And that's actually going to lead in to our next conversation. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, what comes next for the Angels after the winter meetings where things were awfully quiet, a silent night, if you will, during these winter meetings. We'll talk about all of that coming right up.
Hey, the World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994. Now, getting tickets for that, probably going to be difficult. But if you have the Game Time app, they're going to come in clutch for you. They're giving the advantage back to you, the fans, so that you can get your seats for the games that you want to watch. With Game Time, you can track prices in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. Puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Right now, it feels impossible without Game Time. Just pull up the app. The layout makes it so simple to scroll through, pick a game, tap a section, and have your tickets locked in within minutes. No confusion, no hunting for fine print. And they have the seat view feature. It's a game changer. You'll get to see where you're sitting, see what your view is going to be like once you get to the stadium, and probably want to buy those tickets. So take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Again, download the app, create an account, and use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network out there. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. You guys, we like to call you everydayers because you're here with us every single day. Now, if you're one of those everydayers that wants to lean in a little bit more, get more involved with the show, we've got the Locked On Angels Everydayer Club. 2 tiers, $5 tier for $5 a month, and then a $15 tier for $15 a month. Exclusive ad-free audio for the $5 tier and the $15 tier. You can get on a members-only Discord at $5, and exclusive access to national bonus shows from Locked On Podcast Network, like Locked On Sports Today. There's a merch store just for those who are part of the Everydayer Club with Locked On merch. And then with a $15 tier, we take it even further. We get exclusive episodes, all access, such as one-on-ones with me, yours truly. Of course, we'll have extended thoughts and extended conversations from what we have here on Locked On Angels. And then a newsletter version of the show gets into your email inbox every morning. So we hope that you'll take advantage of that. Visit lockedonangels.supercast.com or lockedonpodcast.com/everydayerclub. Get in on all the fun. We've been having a lot of fun since it launched on Monday, and I hope you'll join us.
It was a quiet winter meeting for the Angels, but that's not surprising. They've not been very active during the winter meetings under Perry Minasian's regime. Here's their history. Of course, last year they selected Garrett McDaniels in the Rule 5 draft, and that was it. In 2023, they signed Luis Garcia and Adam Simber. Remember that? And then in 2022, they signed Carlos Esteves. There were no meetings in 20 and 21 due to COVID. And truthfully, it's not, again, surprising that the Angels didn't do much. Now, big question is, what should we make of these non-moves, these lack of moves as we head through the offseason and towards spring training?
I would have been a little more frustrated with what happened during the winter meetings had it not been for the fact that, hey, they made a trade for Vaughn Grissom, right? That's a trade that they made. But more importantly than that, they did the Alek Manoah signing and they did the Taylor Ward for Grayson Rodriguez trade. By the way, Taylor Ward in that Orioles lineup, now that Pete Alonso is in that lineup,
he's going to thrive.
He's going to go off.
Yep. He's not going to be. He's going to be one of the guys and not the guy, and that's exactly who he is. Yep,
exactly. So, sidebar there, but it's Angels related, tangentially related, right?
So we don't need screenshots and say, "Hey, they fixed him." Or
did you guys see what Taylor Ward did?
Yeah, we probably were watching. Yeah, you're right.
It's almost like we watch a bunch of baseball games all the time. That's funny. Here's the thing, though. I would have been more upset with the lack of moves, the lack of what. Did they do anything other than the Vaughn Grissom trade? Not really. Yeah. And then they didn't take anybody in Rule 5. They lost 5 players. They had 1 player. Now, I understand, again, there's some roster flexibility and it kind of frees things up. But, man, there just wasn't a whole lot happening here at the winter meetings. And I think to make something of this, well, let's talk about what Jeff Fletcher wrote in the OC Register about the Angels. And he shared something kind of interesting, didn't he, Mike?
Yeah, he wrote that as the winter meetings came to an end on Wednesday, the Angels had actually cleared more payroll than they had spent. They got Grayson Rodriguez and Alek Manoah, and they got Vaughn Grissom. And they're going to combine together make less than $4 million in 2026. They also trimmed the $14 million by trading away Taylor Ward, depending on what he gets in arbitration. According to FanGraphs, the Angels are about $38 million below last year's payroll. All of this, according to Jeff Fletcher, may be an indication that this year they'd like to aim a little bit higher and maybe take a big shot at a free agent, even if they only have the money for one. They're going to go after somebody. So the big question is, what's that big free agent that would be a game changer for this team right now?
That's interesting to me because I don't want to ruin the premise of your question, but to limit the Angels to spending what they did last year, I think is not quite accurate. It's not as if they won't go up to the luxury tax. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but remember already said, I'm losing $50 to $60 million
last year. Yeah.
Right. Right. And they are the fiscal angels. I get it. But that might be one of the reasons why Jeff Fletcher is running with this theory of they're only going to maybe get one instead of multiple, because if he lost money last year and they're under where they were this year compared to last year, then it wouldn't make sense if they got multiple players and went over that. That, I think, is what he's trying to communicate here.
I was just trying to get you to say underwear. And so I mission accomplished. Yeah. 38 million. You can get somebody pretty decent between 20 and 30 million, right? A starting pitcher, a frontline starter. You can get somebody within that window. And that's certainly who I think the Angels need to go out and get. Now, if they're able to kind of swing something like a $15 million a year for a Tyler Mahle, right? And then use, 15 to 20 for another position player or something like that. I think that you can at least get 2 out of that 38 million. It's not going to be a huge free agent. It's not going to be the top tier of, what we would want, right? Yeah. I want Bo Bichette, and I want him playing second base after the discussion of, Christian Moore maybe moving to third base. I'm like, I'm going to go get Bo Bichette, go do a big splash. And again, that's kind of why I think I understand the premise of the concept, just like you described it, but I just don't think that they would limit themselves to that exact payroll number next year, because to me, it's always about luxury tax and not going over that luxury tax. And they have a lot of space compared to years past where they don't have to dance and dodge that luxury tax payroll threshold. So to me, I think that they could do more, but as far as the premise of this question, 38 million, who do they go and get? Well, they need a good starter. I think they really need another good starting pitcher. I know that there's some offensive issues that they can correct, but at the end of the day, Mike, if you're only going to go for one kind of player, I think it's got to be a starting pitcher, don't you?
I agree, and here's why. I think with the offense, there's more, hey, that guy's not going to be what he was the previous season conversations, right? Logan O'Hoppe is not going to sink like he did last year. I think he's going to improve. And really, he hit the bottom of his career. And there's only room to move up now. So if Logan hits 230 and 25 home runs and plays a little bit better behind the dish, that's going to be spectacular compared to the season that he had last year. I mean, 14 home runs by May 22nd, and then he just couldn't hit the ball after that. And
Yeah.
I think that there's more room to be confident with the offense, even though I am concerned about this offense. I am concerned with if Joe Adell can be the same guy he was last year, if he's going to continue to do that, if Mike Trout is going to be better than he was last year, because I think you need him to be better than he was last year. Will Christian Moore hit? Did he stop hitting and start sucking because he got hurt and then it kind of stopped his momentum? Maybe, right? And then Zach Neto, a full season from Neto, I think Shawnuel will be better. So there's a lot of narratives that could say, well, they could potentially put together a pretty good offense with this team as it stands. Again, Jorge Soler is going to be in there. So will he finally be maybe half of what he's been in his career? I think you got to go with pitching because you're really relying on a lot of guys that you're just not sure if they're ready to do that, not just in the starting rotation, but also in the bullpen. And so if they're going to make a move, I think they got to get one guy to help lead the charge so that you have one guy and then Yusei Kikuchi to really hang on to. And then, of course, you've got Soriano in that starting rotation. You got three guys that have the potential of stopping a losing streak. You've got three guys that have the potential of giving you a winning streak. And then you have two other guys that you can slot in there. Reed Detmers obviously is one of them. Maybe it's Grayson Rodriguez. Maybe it's Alek Manoah, that if they hit, wow, this looks really good for the stats. It looks really good for your team. But I think if you're going to pick, I'm all about run prevention this offseason.
Yeah.
I think that we have to stop other teams from scoring because, as I've said on this show, we scored 2, and then our starting pitcher would give that 2 and more than that in the bottom of the inning.
Yeah, the problem is that even out of guys like Kyle Hendricks and Tyler Anderson, at the beginning of the season, you got some good starts out of them, and then the offense was just anemic.
Yeah.
They weren't doing anything, and all that they were trying to do was hit home runs. And so I think what you're kind of alluding to here is the potential for the offense to be better than it was last year is more realistic than the starting pitching. Like, oh, you're going to hit on Grayson Rodriguez, you're going to hit on Alek Manoah, or Reed Detmers is finally going to be that Cy Young guy that he's always been, right? Like there's too many ifs.
Yeah.
So let's remove the ifs and get somebody for this rotation who helps kind of solidify things. And I think with the offense, if they're able to change who they are, if they're able to change their fundamentals, which under this new coaching staff, they should, right? They shouldn't be the same type of, team that they were trying to be the last couple of years. I mean, even from 24 to 25, I was talking to somebody on YouTube in our comments, and they said, why don't teams really think about speed anymore? Speed at the top of the order. And I said, what's interesting is the Angels stole a whole lot more stolen bases in 24 than they did in 25. Like Joe Adell ran a ton, and Zach Neto. I mean, he had pretty good stolen base numbers in both seasons, but it just seemed to change from 24 to 25. Things just got way different. So in this last year of Perry Minasian and this first and only year so far of Kurt Suzuki, how much is Perry going to stay out of it and not try to make everybody, a 500 slugger, because it's just not realistic. And they need to be able to do the fundamental things. So again, I think the potential for the offense to get better and then get back to basics and get back to fundamental baseball, I think is a greater chance than, like you said, hitting the jackpot on 3 guys in your rotation that are somewhat questionable, honestly. So I think they need to add a true 5th guy to this rotation rather than just crossing their fingers and hoping, like you've been saying, crossing their fingers and hoping that Manoah is going to hit, Rodriguez is going to hit, and Detmers is going to hit. I just don't want to go there. And that's my biggest concern so far.
Yeah, same here. And if they hit, man, it's going to be great.
Sure.
Right. But I'd like to be able to go, if they don't, we've really got great depth in the starting rotation. We've really got a good guy to lead the rotation. And it's not just Yusei Kikuchi trying to go out there and eat up innings and have to be perfect because the 2 guys around him were not perfect in their previous starts.
Can I just say something before we wrap up this conversation on winter meetings? I know that everybody might feel disappointed or mad that other teams are doing so many things. Let me just tell you the number of teams that actually did something over this 4-day period of the winter meetings. There was the Rays, the Phillies, the Dodgers, the Orioles, Blue Jays, White Sox, Astros, and Padres. So 8 teams out of 30 really had some moves. And I guess if you want to count Yastrzemski to the Braves, it's 9 teams. But the Rays, they got Cedric Mullins on the 7th. Obviously, the Phillies brought back Kyle Schwarber. Dodgers got Edwin Diaz the same day. Orioles got Pete Alonso. Blue Jays signed Cody Ponce, and that was made official. Mike, you could be the Rangers and who signed Andrew Velasquez and Tyler Wade to minor league deals over the winter meetings. You could be the White Sox signing, boy, I'm really sad we missed on this, Anthony Kay. I can't believe we missed out on Anthony Kay. How about the Astros signing Ryan Weiss, Mike? How do you feel about that?
Who?
Exactly. The Padres. Oh, no, this is one you're going to be sad about. Padres over the winter meetings. You know who they went and signed? Dazon Acosta, Mike. I'm sorry that we missed out on Dazon Acosta. So there you go. Half of those are minor league signings, nothing signings, while 4 teams really made anything impactful over the last few days. So don't be too upset. There's stuff coming. There's moves to be made, and I don't think the Angels are done this offseason.
NFL Sundays move really fast, and that's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets on all the action as it unfolds. Every drive, momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, the receiver gets hot, the defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. FanDuel lets you jump in on every moment and keeps you locked in on every snap, every drive, and every possibility.
You're going to place any bets on Phillip Rivers against the Seahawks this weekend? Let's go.
Man, I love that. I think it's hilarious. And it means the Niners play them in a couple weeks. So, yeah, let's have Phillip Rivers play.
Yeah, there you go.
If you want to get started with NFL action, go to FanDuel.com. You can place all your live bets there all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you.
Couple more notes as the winter meetings wrapped up and the Angels went back to Anaheim. Perry was asked about Mike Trout and his availability to play the outfield and specifically center field. Now, yesterday on the show, we talked about Kurt Suzuki and what he had to say, and he basically said they hadn't decided who is going to do what in the outfield just yet. When talking about Trout, Perry Minasian said, I'm not ruling anything out. If him playing center field on a certain day makes sense for us to try and win that game, we're not going to be timid to do that. Is that the right approach here with Mike Trout? What do you think? Because I think you know where I stand on all of this.
Yeah, we've talked about telling Mike Trout what he's doing. We've had that conversation on this show because so often they have allowed Mike Trout to tell them what he's doing. And a part of that is because he's Trout, and part of that is because he's the GOAT and he's making all this money. I get all of that. I also get, hey, if it helps the team and he can play center field and it's going to be good, I get why you would place him out there. John, I think that perhaps might be the direction that they go, to be honest with you. I think that they're probably going to see Mike Trout go back to center field because Joe Adell wasn't great. He's better in right field, and Trout needs to be in center field, which means that left field spot could potentially be like a Jorge Soler or a Bryce Teodosio or a Matthew Lugo. I think they're going to leave that open, kind of a rotation of different guys. It makes sense from an idealistic standpoint, but from a realistic standpoint, it doesn't feel like they've really put much thought into this, which I'm not surprised by because it doesn't seem like they put much thought into these types of discussions. They just go, yeah, that's going to work. Let's run with that.
If you need Soler, Trout, and Adell in the lineup, then it makes sense to me that he would be in center field. But there is no way that I'm putting Bryce Teodosio on left and Trout in center field, right? Like it's got to be Teodosio in center field most days, if not all the time, because my opinion on it is you got to ship Jorge Soler out of here so that you can have Trout DH full time. He has to DH full time. Part of the breath of fresh air, I suppose, was that when Shohei, left the Angels, he signed with the Dodgers, and it was like, all right, well, I guess that frees up the DH spot for the rest of Mike Trout's career so that he can stay healthy, he can stay on the field. And then they put him in right last year. And that's the thing, Mike, like before Ohtani left, the conversation was, boy, should they bring him back? Because, you're going to need that DH spot for Mike Trout in the future. You're going to need that DH spot for other players. And then they didn't even use it that well.
No.
The year after Ohtani left, remember, most of the DH starts went to Willie Calhoun in 2024. And then last year, obviously Trout got a number of those. But to me, like I've said before, these decisions get made for you if you don't make the decision for yourself. I think it's time for Trout to just admit to being a DH full-time. And yeah, if there's a day where you need Soler, Adele, and Trout in the outfield because you need them in your lineup, then yeah, I get it. That makes sense, but it doesn't mean you can't use the DH spot for Soler or Trout.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think they need to make a decision and probably tell him what he's doing. He did struggle as a DH versus being in the field, and maybe that's part of the narrative that he's pushing back on is I'm fully engaged at the plate when I'm fully engaged in the outfield and playing in the outfield. But there needs to be some decision that needs to be made so that this guy can be who he is. He's not an old man. Right. He's Aaron Judge's age. He should be able to go out there and play well. Now, Perry also spoke about Reed Detmers and his return to the starting rotation. Because Detmers pitched out of the bullpen last year, Perry was asked if there would be an innings limit for him. Perry said this, John: I'm not a huge believer in innings limits. We use our experience. We use the people we have, our medical staff, and we go start to start. So if he's not a believer in innings limits for Reed Detmers, does that mean that Grayson Rodriguez will not have an innings limit on him?
Yeah, they're going to have to play it start to start, as he said, with somebody like Grayson Rodriguez. I would have never put Detmers on an innings limit because he's done it before.
Yeah.
Right? He's not hit 180 innings, but he's certainly pitched a full season as a starter. And with Grayson Rodriguez coming back from the elbow stuff and the lat stuff, I could see, them taking it slow with him, maybe 5-inning outings. Maybe he still makes all of his starts, but they're not very deep, right? Which that would be a little bit frustrating in my opinion to watch that. But I think that might be the better option out of the two rather than just shutting them down in August, right?
Yeah.
And unless they're way out of it by August, which time says that they might be. They probably will.
Right.
So again, with Perry saying I'm not a huge believer in innings limits, you just got to protect your guys. I mean, look, the year I bring up Shohei again, the year before he left, they let him do what he wanted to do. They let him choose his schedule. They let him choose how he wanted to play. And I think that's what cost him his arm that season and into the next season in 2024. And the truth of the matter is they got to man up a little bit. Like they needed to protect Shohei a little bit better. They needed to protect Mike Trout a little bit better. And part of protecting him is going, no, dude, I don't think we're going to do that. And with, Grayson Rodriguez or Reed Detmers, you got to be protective of these guys. You got to make sure that they're healthy. You can't push them into the ground. And I don't think that they will. I'm not confident. We trust our medical staff. Oof. I don't like the sound of that. I know they got a whole new medical staff, but
yeah,
I don't know, Mike. I think there comes a lack of responsibility when you say things like this, like, oh, we'll take it start to start and we'll use the people that we have. And so that's a little aggressive, which is fine. But I think at some point you just got to be smart. You got to be able to tell these guys when and when not to go out there and do all the things that they have to do. So at the end of the day, if there's no innings limits on these guys, I think that's fine. But I think the greater story here, especially when it comes to Trout, probably Rodriguez, I don't see an issue with Reed Detmers. They just need to be a little bit more protective. Be a parent. Be a good parent. Show some discipline and discipline your kids, right? Like, don't let them run out of control. And I think that's kind of the takeaway that I have here from this story.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On Angels with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and so much more, all for just $5 a month. But if you want to take it up a notch, for $15 a month, you can go all access. You're going to get one-on-one text access with my brother John, all access episodes, an exclusive newsletter, and 15% discount to the Locked On merch store just for you. Go to lockedonangels.supercast.com, or you can click the link in the episode description to learn more.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels, at Super Halo Bros on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to YouTube, get in the comment section because we'd love to hear from you. And you're going to want to do that. And also hit us up on social media, because what do we have on deck for tomorrow, Mike?
Hey, it's a Fan Mail Friday. We get to hear from you. We would love to hear your thoughts, your questions. Also, you can hit us up on the voicemail line. Give us about a 1-minute voicemail. All of that will be in the episode description. So give us a call. We'd love to hear the sultry sounds of your voice for Fan Mail Friday tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
All right, looking forward to that, and we hope you'll join us for Fan Mail Friday. Until then, my name is Jon, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother Jon.
All right, for all you sickos who love the Angels like we do, and all the everydayers who love to watch and listen, we'll see you back here on Friday.
Can't believe the Angels didn't sign Rob Quinlan this season. Man, he was available. They could have gotten him, and they didn't do it.